What's up, YouTube? Episode 11. Basically this week we finished up the build. As you can see, we are standing on the front splitter. Actually earlier this week we had 5 guys on it, which is about 900 to 1,000 pounds. Clay will add a video photo here by Paul's ear. I'm joined with Paul and Clay. Basically we're the guys who built the car. As you'll see in this video, you'll see us wrap up the build. We installed the rear wing, we installed the front splitter, and we basically just finished up all the odds and ends of the build. It took us roughly 2.5, 3 months to do this build, from scanning to CAD to CFD to then fabricating it ourselves. I'm pretty proud of that. Being that this is our first time attack build, there is a possibility of failure. We built these parts for the very first time, so we're learning as we go. There are definitely things that we would change. However, that being said, we feel like we've tested what we can in shop, because the car is not street legal. We can't take it to the track. We don't have a trailer, and obviously it's not our car.
And the wastegate.
And the wastegate dump currently is just going to the engine bay, which needs to reroute to the dump tube out the hood. But anyways, basically we can't test past what we've done, which is add bodies to the car. The car actually needs to be sprung a little differently as well. As you can see, we're almost touching the ground, and this is only about 500 pounds on the front splitter, and it generates quite a bit more than that. But yeah, so basically there is a possibility of failure, and I'm sure some of you would actually enjoy seeing some failure. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but being this is our first build, it is definitely a possibility. We've done our best to basically do what we can in-house, which is stand on stuff, add weight. We've put 3 or 4 guys on the rear wing at this point. The rear wing is pretty stout. All the underbody panels seem to be attached fairly strong. The cooling system is doing its thing at idle. The fan's not working right now, but that's besides the point. And the oil stain, really cool. So the next step is to take the car on the track. We will also be doing some conclusion videos, so we're basically going to take you through the build process of the front splitter, the cooling system, the underbody, and then the rear aero. And we're going to kind of take you from initial design, so CAD and CFD work, and then show you how we fabricated it and kind of like give you a beginning to end of those 4 main things. Clay also thinks we might do a conclusion video discussing basically what we would possibly change moving forward. We obviously learned a lot. 2, how to produce more downforce in the future. 3, our costs and the time involved, that type of stuff. So we're not done with the video series, but we are done building the car, luckily, because it has soaked up a lot of our time, and we're ready to get back to product development. All right, starting with the fender wells, we finished this up this week. So basically we created some sheet metal inner fenders, and I will try to get you some good views of this. So the inner fenders were sealed off as best we could, keeping in consideration the suspension members. And this is to ensure that airflow doesn't get into the engine bay, which is bad. And we did a pretty good job overall. So you can see the upper fender here, and then the inner fender, which is the ABS piece. And then the front fender is here, which covers up most of where the rear diffusers are. We needed to give some clearance so that as you pull the splitter off, it actually does come off. Something else we did this week was clearance the bumper for some splitter ties, which greatly increased the strength of the front splitter. Same up here. Splitter tie to the bottom, very strong. Something we're doing for the front splitter to seal it, and FT86 Speed Factory may come up with something better, but this is called helicopter tape, and it basically I believe they actually use it on helicopter blades, but we're using it as an air dam. So basically, to install it, you just take off the backing. It works like any other tape, but it's really strong stuff. 3M makes it, a few other places make it, but that's what we're initially going with the air dam. And if FT86 Speed Factory wants to do something a little nicer because they're better fabricators than us, ultimately, I would say that they can go for it. But this should definitely work for at least the first few races. The only thing is it needs to come off between every time you take the splitter off. Moving around the car again, clearance and some fender liners. And then moving to the rear, we made these custom brackets for, let's see if we can see here. Nope, that sucks. All right, let's see. We made these custom sheet metal brackets for the rear of the diffuser, which then also tied in some bumper mounts so that this is extremely strong. Really happy. The bumper doesn't flop around anymore. Before, when we didn't connect to the bracket, the bumper was really floppy. Now it's substantially stiffer and ready to take some track abuse. Fenders, you can see here again, really nice. Let's get an undershot of the dual element wing. So this is what the dual element looks like from the bottom. Let's get her down on the ground and then we'll show you a few other things we finished up this week. All right, with the car on the ground, we can now see that the dual element has been installed for the last time. We got everything back from powder coating and then we laser engraved our name in one spot. Jeremy asked us to, well, he sort of asked us to do it. Anyway, we installed the installed the dual element for the last time, and you can see how basically that's all set up. Currently the second element is installed at 40 degrees angle of attack with the main at 0 degrees. The end plates were made from Alumilite 6mm, and then we filled in the front, the leading edge and the trailing edge with some sealant. These are our little custom washers that we have made for our 300mm, and they're just M4s. The end plate is pretty stout overall. It doesn't move too much. We will see what happens when it hits the track. We have little 3D printed slot gap spacers, and this is to keep the gap, which is very specific to what we need for maximum performance. Those are there to keep the slot gap at a very specific distance and improve performance of the rear wing. That's all, again, derived by CFD, which is basically how we derived this entire aerodynamic kit. The rear wing does increase downforce all the way to 52 degrees angle of attack. We're starting at 40 because that is roughly what we feel will generate a balanced kit. As you increase angle of attack, you will increase downforce. So that 1,700 pounds can definitely become 2,000 pounds. But with the current front aero, we expect the car to make 1,700 pounds of downforce. To create a balanced car. You don't want to have something that understeers or greatly oversteers. So that's basically where the car sits as is, and the car is ready to be picked up. We did finish the trunk mounts as well. So Man Bun Mike ended up figuring out where he wanted him. The trunk is really stout. It's strong. We're going to have no issues there. It does have some holes that we'll probably end up filling in, maybe with that tape again, or Jeremy can get a whole new trunk. I'm not sure what he's gonna do. But yeah, that's it. We're gonna go get some pictures outside and then hopefully get some track testing done this year. Today we're gonna be installing or assembling the dual element for Jeremy's car. I figured I would do a short clip of the assembly and also weigh the units. So basically this is the main element and it already has the mounts installed. So these are, I don't know how much they weigh, probably about a pound between the two. But we'll weigh this real quick. Can't read it and say it at the same time. So we're at 9.5 ounces, or 9 pounds 5 ounces. 9 pounds, 5 ounces there. And the dual element is just under 4 pounds. So 3 pounds, 15 ounces. All right, to begin installing, we're gonna install these little side plates which bolt to the dual element. I have a little bit of red Loctite that I'll be using just to ensure that they don't back out. M4 stainless steel hardware is used. Alright, so that's how the two mounts bolt to the wings. These were 1/4 inch 6061 T6 aluminum that were water jet cut out, and then we added the chamfers ourselves and we tapped a few holes ourselves here. But overall, really happy with how this is coming out. I'm going to go do the other side and then we'll assemble the two units together. Alright, so off camera, I ended up installing these little, what we're going to call slot gap spacers. And this little piece, which was 3D printed, will ensure that the gap between the dual element and the single element remains consistent. So we're going to now install the dual element to the single element, and you'll get to see that shortly. Gonna grab a quick weight on the dual element. This is basically fully installed. The only things that are missing are the bolts for the dual element, which I'm not gonna install. It's like not even an ounce. But basically, it's just the final bolts that will change the angle of attack for the dual element.
Well, we could probably balance
15.9 or 15 pounds 9 ounces, not 0.9. All right, guys, that concludes the time attack build. I hope you enjoyed everything. We're gonna probably try and do some more of these videos in the future with what we're going on in the shop. I don't know, maintenance, product builds, all that type of stuff. We'll try and bring you and loop you into what's going on at Verus, and hopefully we'll do another time attack build someday. I don't know, if you're interested in a time attack build, contact us, sales@verus-engineering.com, and we'll see you at the track. All right, so we have some questions from this week's Instagram, and I think Clay has some from Facebook. Is the splitter strong enough for you guys to do a couple chin-ups just for laughs? It's not on the lift anymore, but I think you saw 3 of us standing on it, and we have a picture. Clay, do that thing. It's like here. Of 5 guys standing on it. What is the car's total downforce at 120 miles per hour? Currently, as it sits, 1,700. It's definitely capable of more with a few changes, but for right now, 1,700 pounds. What kind of suspension changes are needed for aero like this? Stiffer springs for sure. When we put 900 to 1,000 pounds on it yesterday on the front splitter, the splitter was basically touching the ground because the suspension compressed that much. So it's going to need probably quite a bit stiffer suspension, which makes sense. What's the best budget material to build a splitter? Best is an impossible question to answer. What are you worried about? Weight, cost? I mean, we made one out of Alumilite. Is it perfect? No. Would we change it? Probably. Would we spend a little bit more money for something that works a little better? Yes. So best, what's your scale? Wood is definitely possible. It's going to be heavy. We didn't actually weigh our splitter. We estimated at like 25, 30 pounds. Talking to Professional Awesome, shout out Mike. His is about 50 pounds. It's wood. What will it take to get that extra 300 pounds of downforce? Yeah, it's as simple as adjusting the rear wing. We have it set up at 40 degrees. It's capable of producing more downforce all the way up to 52 degrees. Currently, it's set up, in our opinion, as a balanced setup. So 1,700 pounds balanced. It could probably produce over 2,000 pounds unbalanced with rear bias. but we would need to do something to the front end to actually balance that 2,000 pounds out, and then it would actually probably be around 2,300 pounds or 2,400. How hard is the bumper to remove for putting in a trailer? Very hard. That's why we made the splitter easy to remove, Jeremy.
All right, this one's from Facebook. Interested to know about the theory behind aiming the diffusers in the front splitter at the front of the tire.
Basically, the fenders on the FRS BRZ are not very large. We've worked on some cars that have much larger front fenders. The areas as far as lateral, and then we can work with different diffusers there. But with the size and the volume space that we're given, we have to aim some of the diffusers at the tire. Do they work as well as the inner one? No, ultimately, but we work with what we can get, and they still do function. They just don't function as well as the innermost one.